I'm making a video game with underwater mechanics. In this devlog, a playable demo is released, sprite gap workarounds, tutorial redesign, UI updates, level props, persistent settings. I've uploaded a second demo of the game so far on itch.io and I would love for you all to try it and give me some feedback or encouragement. I've added a link to both the itch.io download page and a survey in the description of this video. Thank you in advance for spending the time playing my game and watching these devlogs. The gaps between the diagonal stalactites are caused by pixels not aligning when they're diagonal. Since the gaps exist because each part is a separate sprite, I decided to try making sprites that were longer than 1 unit. When testing this theory, I created a quick composite sprite shape in Sprite. I then imported it into Unity as a single sprite, created a set of polygon colliders for it, and replaced one of the stalactites in the third level. This worked. There were no gaps. Since I wanted to get a demo out and creating and updating the polygon colliders was going to take longer, I decided to use a workaround and just place a composite sprite behind the original stalactite parts. With this approach, I went through all the levels and took note of where the gaps showed up and for which stalactite combinations. Then I created a new sprite sheet in Sprite and added all the combinations I would need. After importing the sprite sheets into Unity and splicing up the sprites, I went through each level and placed a background sprite where gaps showed up. I realized it was much easier to center things if I made the stalactite's position 0-based and then used the parent game object as the transform when moving the group. This made everything align nicely with the stalactites comprised from parts. With the movement mechanics changing a bit, I decided to take a second approach to the tutorial. Like the last version, I wanted the tutorial to be linear enough and for specific movement based on the level. I started by blocking out a shape that would make the player have to swim up and sink. I also wanted an area where the player grabs a chest and has to swim up to experience the reduction in movement. One of the pieces of feedback I got from the first tutorial was that the order-specific instructions could get a user stuck. For this next version, I wanted to show hints based on what area the user enters and not worry about ensuring they hit the correct keys. I started by creating a trigger area that would control text on the UI. With that system working, I listed out all the hints I wanted to give and created hint areas for each. The previous tutorial made no mention of the oxygen system, so I added a hint specifically for this and an effect that highlights the oxygen bar. I also wanted to introduce the player to the concept of danger, so I made an area that warns them before they encounter 2 mines they have to jump over. I then asked my spouse to give the tutorial a shot, and she mentioned that the text felt too quick since you're running through the level, so I extended the size a bunch. With the size at a good spot, I replaced the block out with tiles. I updated the anchor to force a player to press F to teach them that mechanic. Other levels still autocomplete when you gather every treasure. While testing the game, I constantly found myself retrying levels. Having to use the mouse to restart a level started to feel annoying, so I added the option to press R to restart a level. This feature was added to the pause menu, the death screen, and when you complete the level and your score is being shown. I also updated the font on the level selection items to match the font on the score screen. I also fixed a bug on the score screen that would display the chests in collection order instead of by treasure type. I updated the end level screen to only display based on available chests, which removes the awkward gap when there's 2 chests in a level. To add some polish to the levels, I added props to each level. The last thing I worked on was saving the sound settings and loading them on startup. This used a system similar to the save system, except I took the opportunity to make a general purpose component that handles serialization. Saving the settings just calls this with a directory, file name, and object to save. In the future, I'll change the game data save system to also use this and remove duplicate code. That's it for this devlog. My focus for the next part will be gather and categorize feedback from the demo. Start designing the enemies for the second world and introduce motion-based danger into the game. Once again, thank you for spending your time watching this and I hope you give my demo a shot. I've added a link to both the itch.io download page and a survey in the description of this video. Until next time.